I'd like to welcome everyone to the Adelaide Microsoft IT Pro Community May Meetup. I am Andrew Young. If you've not met me before, I am a AI workforce security guy at InfoMotion. I'm also a Microsoft MVP in security and M365.
Hey all, I'm Shahan. I'm working as a consultant in the intelligent workspace at Arinco. I'm also Microsoft MVP, specializing in Intune and identity access management. You can find me in LinkedIn. That's my blog as well, where I write about security in general. Yeah, welcome.
Thanks to our sponsors, Microsoft for providing a venue and us for hanging around several years in a row now. Cool. So we'll start with the what's new, what's coming, and then we'll move on to our guest speaker and topic of the month. So firstly, M365, if you've been paying attention for the past couple of meetups that we've had, we've been toying with the idea of M365 backup and archive, and now generally available is the ability to restore from a file or folder level. So previously it was entire sites. So you can really go down and drill into certain folders and specific files as it is. So in the roadmap as well, there will be the ability to then resolve any conflict. So if there's any duplicate files, or if you need to replace something or just skip something, that will come at some point. And also, if you are working out of Office in the web, or Office for the web, just speaking about it before in the lobby around sensitivity labels, you can now apply labels and assign custom permissions from the user side of things. So it's not so much server side, it's now you can apply levels of sensitivity and permissions to files at certain specific levels. And we have been harping on about this one, but May 1st already happened. So M365 E7 is now out. Agent 365 is now out. All the things. Price tag, I think it was 99 US. Can't confirm what it is in AUD just now, but I think it was around 140 at the time of conversion. But yeah, combination of your E5 suite, M365 Copilot, and then Entra Suite and Agent 365 to give you that end-to-end kind of protection and governance across your data and AI in the new frontier workplace. Not to steal any thunder for tomorrow's Copilot user group, but there are a couple of new things. I'll be very brief. There are new LLM versions from OpenAI and Claude Anthropic out there. So GB 5.5, the new Images 2.0, Opus 4.7. There's a new legal agent in Word, in the Frontier Preview program to help you with your legal terms. The app on your mobile phone is now chat first. So just be presented with your chat or chat history. And again, more changes in naming conventions. So previously what was Copilot in an Office app, it then became agent mode, and now it's allow editing. So you can provide the agent access to your application to then create and work on your data in the canvas. So creating Word documents, spreadsheets, PowerPoint decks, a bit more responsive now and better user experience overall. Same thing with Outlook. We've now got allow editing. So you can select emails in your inbox and ask Copilot to draft and manage your emails that way, as well as your calendar. So you can tell it to automatically decline meetings from your manager and so on. That's not advice, but you could do that. In the collaboration space, if you're still using on-prem Exchange, EAP, but hey, if you are still using Exchange on-prem, there are extended security updates. They're now releasing their second period. So they are releasing 6 monthly updates for security, and they will charge you however much that costs. And from the online point of view, there's additional investments in protecting via DNS, and they're deprecating those legacy protocols which people still need to use for some reason. There's a new AI skills in SharePoint. This is the ability to create specialized instruction sets called skills that the AI in SharePoint can leverage. So it's kind of a predetermined prompt that you can then call on to generate the best outcome depending on what you're doing in there. So you can ask the AI to help you create those skill files, but you can also go in and write them up yourself. Files, so you can store that somewhere and call it from wherever you are. Daniel just briefly mentioned Copilot Co-work, so that's the Anthropic agent, I guess, that lives in Copilot now, where you can also create skills and leverage them through that. So with the combination of skills being in here, in co-work, you're going to have a much better experience. And people have already mentioned this is what was originally marketed with Copilot 3 years ago and what it could actually do. So we're getting to that point now. It's just taking a little bit of time to mature. It was also the 25th anniversary of SharePoint, so there is now a full feature film, I think.
I feel old.
Hey,
I feel old.
you feel old. On demand from YouTube, you can catch the history of SharePoint from the people from behind the scenes. And Microsoft Teams getting a whole bunch of new UI, quality of life improvements. As the new app bar comes out, it's more condensed. You can see more stuff. And interpretation, transcripting gets improvements. You can now resize the gallery of people at the top if you're presenting, so that you can actually get more insights into how the audience is engaging with you on your content and your presentation. You can prevent screen capture on iOS devices now when you're in a meeting. Last note, the Together mode is going away, unfortunately. Remember, this is the COVID time feature where you can have everyone in your meeting come on screen, and it's like a template. So are these chairs? Yeah, everyone's face on a chair, that kind of thing. That is, I think it's getting killed off in a couple of months. Yeah.
By the end of the year, it should be gone.
Yeah. Sad times. Into the security side of things, so Entra ID, if you are managing agents, with the announcement of Agent 365, they are moving certain menus into Agent 365 now. So if you're trying to find them, that's where they've gone. In terms of ID governance, if for some reason still using hybrid identities and you're syncing from on-prem, Entra Connect now blocks you from syncing any accounts that have privileged roles. So we are on-prem or in the cloud with Entra roles. They won't let you sync them because that's just an accident waiting to happen. In terms of protection, we've got new risky user reports. I jumped in the other day. I was confused. You move stuff around again. That's one thing. And there's a new license usage rights dashboard. So if you're trying to get a grasp on what's actually being used and to try to reduce some costs somewhere.
Probably one more to that.
One more. Yeah.
Well, if you haven't used entitlement packages where people can request or the IT admins can create packages saying contractors would get these sort of applications, they'll get into these teams rather than them requesting it. So that's been there for ages. Now they added the RBAC roles as well. So rather than the contractors or users requesting, if you know like a predetermined stage, so they can add all the permissions in the access package. So when they actually provision the package, when the user actually get the access package into the scene, into their end, they would get those permissions as well. So they can elevate those permissions one by one, but they would be packaged in the same access package. So I think it's in preview at the moment, but that's in the entitlement packages if you're using the Entra ID governance features.
Cool. In Intune, if you have been managing devices and you've ever had to check whether an application is pushed out to a Windows device, often it takes a long time. They're now going to change it so that it will only update, sync any changes. So you get a better idea of whether this app has successfully deployed or not. And that's still, to this day, it hurts me when applications don't deploy. There's going to be modernized seamless or single sign-on support for Linux endpoints, which is about time. So similar to Windows and Mac OS, if you're using a Linux device, you'll get same kind of experience with those, multi-factor authentication processes. And Intune will now support the Vision OS headset and TV OS, which I assume is Apple TV devices as part of their range of Apple devices. And I'll let you choose whether you want to use managed Apple accounts as well now. On the Intune blog, there's a new segment coming called Myth versus Reality, and I think this month it will be around June.
give us check-ins. So the one.
It's change-based delivery speed and responsiveness. So,
Yeah.
So that's
So on,
yeah. They'll just drop a handy hit like this every month from now on. So yeah, if you're interested in that kind of thing, or if you are managing devices, yeah, jump onto the tech community blog and suss that out. Purview won't go too much into this, but there's now referential architecture diagrams. So there's 12 of them, from anywhere between classifying your data, applying labels, insider risk management, data loss prevention across your devices, in the browser, and so on. So check that out if you're playing with Purview or any form of information protection. Just a reminder, the Sentinel experience is moving to the Defender XDR portal next March. That's been extended from this July. And if you're using any of these other older on-prem servers, they will be end of life very soon. Security training, if you're interested, I believe these are still up to date. Nothing's changed so far. But yeah, it's just free learning in your own time. And the learning, I think I've kept most of the stuff from last month and the month before, but it's just all around AI skilling now. So I think we saw this drop at the start of the year. Oh my God, there's a whole bunch of new exams, new certification names. Some of them hadn't actually met the timeline that they suggested there. And obviously they're going to retire older ones. They're going to rename existing ones to align with the current nomenclature. But they dropped another roadmap earlier last month, I think. And yeah, the agent builder is now in beta, but I haven't seen the other one or the security one from the previous slide yet. And yeah, again, some other retirements. So Power Platform certifications are going away. So it's a really big shake up to the cert list at this point in time. So as I mentioned before, the AI agent builder is now in beta. There is a code. First in, best dress. It's first 300 people to register using it, so it might already be consumed by now. But I got in early, so I will let you know how painful it is. And yeah, the other three, actually, I think there's two more. The AI 103, that as well. And there's an AI Skills Navigator agent to help you build out your learning plans. If you're a team manager, you can build out some learning plans for your teams to work through, track their progress, and so on. If you're into Copilot Studio or agent development, you know, the team at Microsoft have actually put this together. There is a intermediate advanced course in Copilot Studio, so you get your badges for that. You've got the extensions to other things like MCP, YAML, etc. And they've also got a new course around the Copilot co-work now as well. So if you've got time, check that out. And in the same vein, the Copilot Dev Camp, they're doing it as well. So that you also get badges now, but they've had their courses out for longer. So and that's the M365 and Power Plat community team on that one. So it's nice to see them jumping on board as well. Speaking of Microsoft Learn, there's no student, well, I assume there's no students in the room, but the Student Ambassador Program has a bit of a change. So they've changed the naming convention. It's now Associate and Senior instead of Beta and Gold, which didn't really make much sense. I thought I saw they changed the criteria, but I think it's still the same. It's higher education, university, college, and so on. Relevant to that, yeah, so just the other user groups in Adelaide, if you're keen on any of those other topics, we tend to be a bit more general, but there's one almost for every flavour there. And announcing couple of days ago, the global security community is now a thing. So we've got the Adelaide chapter established now. Myself, Sean, and a lot of us are leading that chapter. And yeah, website's up, ready to go for members. And we do have our first event published on there as well. So more on that on the next slide. But I think it's tomorrow afternoon at Australia time. We've got in the afternoon an agent-a-thon. There's also a later version, I think, for the UK stream. But again, there'll be beginner, intermediate, advanced streams for that. So it's jumping online, doing some workshopping and creating your own agent. got Digital Workplace Conference in Melbourne, end of the month, more of that later. And then followed by the Microsoft Builds and the Developer Conference in San Fran this time. And then we may have a local host event, depending on how the conversations went.
Yep, we will.
And then, for the next couple of months or quarter after that will be a lot of security events. So there's B-Sides, there's the ACER, AdelaSec, and then our Global Security Bootcamp, also the Adelaide one. So aiming for the 22nd of August, so day after the AdelaSec. Hopefully we'll get some speakers coming from that as well. But yeah, that's now live on the website. So ready for registrations and call for speakers. So if you want to present about security any way, shape or form, please consider. So more on Digital Workplace Conference. So myself will be presenting on data security considerations by Copilot agents and patients. There we go. QR code is now irrelevant. We'll probably close competition. But guest speaker Daniel is also going to be presenting at the Digital Workplace Conference. And in terms of that competition, turns out we only had one entrant in the competition. And the winner of that is Mr. Carlisle over here. Hey! We'll grab a photo or something after with you.
I won one last week.
Sorry?
I won an entry last week.
You both entered the sweepstakes.
They got on as well.
Well, if
I got
anyone
a
wants a
ticket
free
tomorrow,
ticket, let me know.
I got another one. I got 2 tickets to give away.
Yeah, wow. Okay. Moving on. So next month, I think we may have John Liu in to talk about Power Automate MCP, depending on what our schedule looks like. That may or may not be the same thing. It could be the local host event. We'll let you know. But always call for speakers. And if you want to suggest or request any topics, use the QR code, the form, the links that are shared pretty much everywhere that we've got the user group. And just quickly wrapping, we've got the podcast back for 2026. I think we announced last time that Shahan is leaving the podcast. Yeah. So we've got Matt Clark coming. So first episode post Shahan is soon, probably next week. And we'll have a bunch of guest speakers already lined up. So stay tuned for that.
No. Yes, guest speaker.
Yes, please come back. The Discord server, if you've not seen it, SAIT Connect, all people within SA, Adelaide, wherever you may be, whatever role, if you're in IT or you're interested in IT, come join the server. We've got all sorts of channels around all the different channels in IT, I guess. Also job seekers, students and so on, you're all welcome. I'm taking part in the May 50K again. So that's the Multiple Sclerosis Australia Foundation community event, moving distances, raising funds, awareness for the cause. I think the community has already raised over 800K so far, and we're only 5 days in. So if you're interested to find out more, check the link or donate or follow, whatever it may be. Try not to eat up too much of our time here. So our guest speaker is Mr. Daniel Brown, presenting on Beyond the Copilot Pilot. I'll get you to stand up and distract the crowd while I do some logistics here.
Thanks for that, Andrew. We're just going to swap presentation. My laptop's having a moment, of course, because we're here. So we're live. Joys of being live. Did you get that email?
I'm just going in.
Yeah,
So
sorry.
give me 2 minutes.
So as Andrew mentioned, I am speaking at the Digital Workplace Conference as well at the end of the month. This presentation is somewhat into that. So this is sort of my first dry run of that presentation. I will give you a warning, it's not branded. I haven't branded this yet. But we'll look at Beyond the Copilot Pilot. So what does that mean? Where do we normally have problems with Copilot? How do we get back on track and how do we actually make that successful? Copilot is one of those things that has been rolling out now for a part of 3 years. And we've had, personally, I've had a lot of experience rolling it out. I am a Microsoft MVP in Copilot, the only one in SA, as well as Azure AI. So I've got sort of the both stacks of AI covered. And prior to that, Microsoft MVP is for the last, 2 years as well. But Copilot is a very tricky topic. It's something that, yes, you can just turn on and everything's all lovey-dovey. That's what everyone likes to believe. But it's basically not. I won't dive too much into all my topics while we're waiting for hopefully come through.
Need a code.
But I do have, so I'll pause that for a sec just while we're getting this up. So I do have the Copilot user group happening on tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Got Andrew presenting there. So we're sort of, I'm doing his user group and then he's doing my user group this month. And then I do also host the M365 user group as well. That's the third Tuesday of the month. I forget the date off the top of my head for that. But that is backing up to DWC. So it's a week before DWC, which is probably the 19th, I think, is roughly that date. We good to go? Almost. Sweet. Good. Yep. Excellent. Yeah. All right. So we'll dive into it now that we've distracted everyone long enough with a little bit of info. So about me, I'm a consultant. I've been doing this gig called SharePoint now, as I said, for over 20 years with SharePoint, certainly in that space for a long time. And that has led to my Copilot work because obviously everyone wants their information, their documents, their data, all their structured information, which has been SharePoint traditionally. I've been doing SharePoint for, yeah, as I said, probably close to 23, 24 years now. My first SharePoint experience was 2001. So I didn't get involved in the one before that, which was Tahoe, but from then on in, I have been do a whole bunch of SharePoint stuff, present, all that sort of stuff. I was in Sydney the other week hosting the Azure AI Expert Hub as well with Satya. I can never Satya.
Did you actually get the meeting?
I never did get his name right. Not with him, he wasn't at the Azure AI Hub. But we had the big AI tour as Microsoft and everything like that. I've been involved in all bits and bobs around the place for many years, M365, O365, SharePoint, all the different conferences, all the different user groups as well. I don't want to keep looking back. I'm just going to rearrange the laptops. I put it up there again. That's all right. Sweet. Oh, I am. So the reality is most Copilot pilots don't actually fail. They just fizzle out. Which, yes, is probably still a failure, don't get me wrong, but it's not like they fail in a dramatic sense. They're like, okay, cool, we've rolled out Copilot and everyone's not using it. And what are we doing now? And all that sort of stuff. It's just that use is standardized, the license continue, and people just don't use it. They don't use it either through the applications or through the biz chat itself or through various different agents. I mean, agents are definitely getting more and more traction these days, and that is certainly the path of where Microsoft is going with these agents. If you're unfamiliar with agents, essentially they're a task-specific or knowledge-specific AI. So they sit on top of Copilot or technically to the side. You can have, prime example, and I use this as really low-hanging fruit, is PolicyBot. Have an agent, point it to your policies, and you can use natural language to talk to your policies. That's an agent. Copilot is the bigger one. Copilot is an agent in and of itself. Point it at 365, put a pretty logo on it, call it Copilot. There's a lot more to it than that, but that's where it is. And Copilot itself, we're seeing an all right adoption rate. It's gotten better over the last 12 months. Certainly with the expectation of licensing where we didn't have to buy 300 licenses at a year commitment. That was a bit of a killer. But now we're seeing more justify those licenses. Why are you using it? Everyone doesn't need a license. And where I liken this to is Power BI. So does everyone need a Power BI license? Well, actually they do these days. I found that out this week. Back in a previous though, only your authors really needed the Power BI license. So only applying that to Copilot, only people who are going to be using Copilot need a license. Now, how do you know what people are going to be using Copilot? That's going to be the tricky one. So what actually happens, or the structure of a Copilot deployment? We get all the excitement building. Yes, it's coming. Yes, it's coming. Yes, it's coming. We see maybe a somewhat loose pilots happen within the organization. We get those people experimenting with it. Now, the experimentation does tend to take in the form of using the free one. So everyone goes to copilot.microsoft.com, they click on that and you're presented, hey, do you want to use work or personal? That's if you've got it. Otherwise, it just loads in to Copilot. People just assume, oh yeah, this is Copilot. And it is, but it's exactly the same as ChatGPT. It's free, it's not connected to your tenancy. There are options to connect it, certainly with SharePoint now and with Outlook. I don't recommend them. Don't give your IT teams heart attacks. Look at the policies, ask questions before you do that sort of stuff, because if your organization does not have an AI policy now, that is a big gaping gap of what AI should be using, should it not be using, what information you should be putting through the AIs as well. So we start to see this experimentation happen. All right, we're using the biz chat, we're using AI in the apps. How do we use it in Outlook? What's the difference between Teams and Outlook? What's the difference between Word and Outlook? What's the difference between Word and Copilot chat? Okay, the difference between Word and Outlook, very obvious, but what's the difference between Copilot in those or agent mode in those? Obviously, Word Copilot is geared more towards Word. Outlook is geared towards Outlook. Outlook Copilot is geared towards Outlook. That's not to say that you can have the iterations or the chats between those, but we see those experiments happening. You know, draft me an email, draft me a document, summarize this thread, summarize this email chain, summarize this chat channel, summarize this meeting transcript. Great experimentation of Copilot. But then we see the confusion phase kick in. So this is around about week 4 of, okay, cool, I've played with it. It can summarize my emails. It can have a look at my transcripts, and then people forget. It's not like they don't not go out of their way to use it, or they don't go out of their way to not use it. But they fall back into that old habits. That's where that sort of confusion comes in. So it's not so much about their old habits coming through. It's like, how do I use it with my old habits? You're not meant to. I mean, these are going to be new habits that you're going to develop along the way, or evolve your old habits. You know, so instead of sitting there for 15 minutes catching up on emails on a Monday morning, get the summary, get the top 5 emails I need to attend, have a look at those first. Anything else comes through, maybe that's Monday afternoon thing, Tuesday morning thing, who cares? Because by the time it gets to that stage, those emails are probably irrelevant, or they're not really needed any input from you. It's more like an FYI. So have the 2 prompts. Have one prompt say, what is my goals, targets, high priority emails? What information, or the other prompt is, what information do I need to be aware of? 2 different sets of data. But that confusion then leads into the silence. You know, I don't know how to use it. I don't need to tell anyone. I'm using it. Yeah. Timmy, you use it? Yeah, no problem. Yeah, Copilot's great. No, not using it. And that's where we see, well, how are people using it, or how were they not using it? So this is where we see, I need to put a curve diagram in here, but you know, the excitement, the experience, or the experimentation comes up, confusion sets in, and it just drops off really fast or really sharply. The biggest one that we see is we're not seeing value. That's the biggest comment. And to that, I do say, well, where and how are you using it? Because checking my emails, I can save 2 hours a month. There's your $50 for the license. I mean, you know, we can save 2 hours a month. I'm happy. Now, in reality, I can probably save you 3, 4, 5 hours a week. So you're looking at almost 3-4 days a month of time saving if you can embed this right per person. You know, I'm not saying guaranteed, but that's the sort of level that you want to start to look at. How can we save half a day per month with the right adoption? And the whole we're not seeing value is comes back to that confusion as well. So where are we getting those value points? How do we use it? How were we trained to use it, or were we trained to use it? And how do we actually utilize what information we have to give us that information and insights we're looking for? So it's not actually a technology problem. This is definitely not a technology problem. The technology works. I mean, it's sure everyone goes, I want Copilot to do this. It needs a feature here. It should be able to find this. Okay, fine. That's enhancements. That's uplifting. That's version 2. But it is actually working. It does go in there. It sees your emails. It summarizes it. It drafts your documents. It drafts your Word. It creates PowerPoints. All of that. It is functional. What we're actually dealing here with is really an operating model. How do we actually, or an operating model problem? How do we actually use it and embed it in our operations? How are we using it day to day or week to week or every few days? How are we encouraging our staff and our members to use it? What tasks can actually be automated? And that's a whole big other topic too, AI versus automation. And how can we actually get that embedded as a culture within the organization as well? So these are the kind of the things, and again, this is a fairly rough presentation, but do you trust your SharePoint permissions? Probably everyone's like, no. It's a really common problem, and this is the biggest problem with Copilot. So can Copilot surface information that you're not allowed to see? Only if your permissions are correct. If you have access to it today, Copilot will make it a lot easier to become visible. Now, people may say, look, blame Copilot and go, oh, this risk is too high. We don't want to be able to find that information. To that, I would respond and say, you need to fix your permissions. That's the actual problem, underlying problem. Is your content clean and current? V1, V2, V3, V4, V26. They should not be in the names. And this goes back to what we were saying earlier. DLP, data lifecycle. Do you actually have files from the beginning of time? Everyone's like, yes, because we don't delete them. No one deletes them just in case we need it in 15 years' time. No one's there from 15 years ago. So having that lifecycle allows you to do marvelous wonders with Copilot, because all of a sudden now it's not trying to figure out which is the latest file. You got V1, V2, V3. Is V1 newer than V10 or is V10 newer than V1? You get into those sort of problems. So if we can clean those out, get all the current information up to date, anything that's relevant, keep anything that's irrelevant, archive off, delete out of SharePoint. Have that data lifecycle come through. Also, the biggest one, or one of the biggest ones, is, and I should move that up the top to be honest, is the use cases. What are you trying to achieve with Copilot? Are you trying to save time? That's a lofty goal. That's useless to me. Are you trying to save time when you review your emails? Are you trying to save time when you review your contracts? Are you trying to identify risks in contracts? So instead of me having to read 50 different contracts, can I actually chuck them through Copilot and say, okay, what top 3 risks are in these contracts? Gives me a more specific goal to work towards. Gives me that use cases where I can actually go, I've saved 15 minutes per contract that I've reviewed because I've looked for risks and I've looked for benefits, and here they are. And then I can go deeper. You know, the first step is getting that overview, that insight. Obviously, these prompts matter and words matter within prompts, but having these exact use cases allows you to define where you're going and why you're going there. And can you measure the business impact today? I mean, this comes down to that whole governance, time recording, time reporting, and seeing how much time we can actually save. If not, Copilot won't fix it. If you can't see how long something is taking, how do you know we're saving time on it? You know, very simple, but it's a big impactor of Copilot, to be honest. And Copilot isn't a magic bullet either, just on that note. So going back to why do they actually stall? Copilot deployments stall. It's not a tech failure and it's not a licensing issue. If anything, with the licenses, people are applying too many licenses. Because why does everyone need a license? Microsoft will go, oh, well, I need it because of this, because of that, because of that. And you may get there. That may be part of the journey plan. So you can start out with your small pilot and your execs, because your execs will always want it. Move on to a wider pilot. Roll out to a wider pilot, wider pilot, wider pilot. So this may be a 3, 6, 9 month, 12 month deployment. How long it is really depends on A, your security permissions and data hygiene, and 2, how eager are you adopting it and how risk adverse you are. If your execs are really keen and they're like, yeah, we want it, like they always are, but your SharePoint permissions are really, really, really poor, I'd say they'd be one of the last groups to be coming on board, because they have access to too much. They have access to all the information, which is great, and we can leverage that, but we've got to make sure that information is protected, it's secure, it's labeled, it has a life cycle. Yet again, we don't need all these up front. Do you need sensitivity labels where you can actually classify documents as, private, confidential, board only, sensitive? Do you need 100% of your information labeled? No. But I could guarantee you want board, HR, legal, finance, all marked as private. Start out those. Easy wins. Anything in SharePoint in the HR side, by default's private or sensitive or confidential, whatever label you want to use for it. Anything on the intranet, the actual intranet, not team sites, that can be internal only. We can get these quick wins without having to achieve 100%. I was going to say 100% satisfaction then, but with 100% coverage. Yet again, that's a goal. That's a goal to walk towards. This is now getting into Microsoft Purview. So if you haven't got Purview, now's the time to look at it, because this is what controls all of that. And Intune to a degree, and a whole other bunch of things, which we won't dive into. But you want to check out the length of the journey. This is really going to come down to what you want to do as an organization. As I said, it's really poor data foundations is the main problem with Copilot deployment stalling. What information is relevant? How are we finding it? What do I have access to? Where is it? Those become the problems, because if you don't know, Copilot can find it. That's not a problem. But only if you've got access to it, or if you don't have access to it, then you shouldn't have access to it. Therefore, Copilot won't pick those up. Weak governance, and yet again, this is not specifically to Copilot, but it's through your M365 environment. How are we controlling it? How are we seeing it? Do we have the oversight? Do we see the Copilot Control Center? Are we looking at Agent 365 to see who is creating all these agents that are running around? What are they doing? Who controls them? Who owns them? Big part of that is because as soon as Daniel leaves the organization and we've got a critical process that relies on one of his agents that he built in Microsoft Teams, that process is now broken. So we need to be able to see those agents as they pop up, see where that data is, where it's coming from, who's using it, who's getting it to. And the operating model, how are we actually operating with Copilot? How are we actually operating with SharePoint, with Teams, with OneDrive? So it's not just a Copilot conversation, it is a collaboration conversation. How are we collaborating with our data? Who's got access to it? Why have they got access to it? Justify the access for it. And, basically get them to justify why they have access to the data. Not to, be, hardcore, but to say, okay, well, we are moving to an era where it becomes data first, essentially. I know everyone at the moment is AI first, but it is a data problem. All these is data related. And Copilot exposes your problems, doesn't solve them. So if you've got weak governance, you can find that out with Copilot or the Copilot deployment. Not, do I have weak governance? Not the problem. But through the reporting, through the tracking, through the utilization, through the usage, are we looking at being an AI first organization? What does that mean to us? And yeah, with the whole poor exposes your problems with poor data foundations and poor data hygiene, it just exuberates it more. Being an old SharePoint person, SharePoint search, a few key phrases, generally 6, 7 out of 10 businesses, I could find the pay rates of everyone, because I guarantee you there was some permissions that shouldn't have been there. Copilot, I don't have to go hunting. I don't have to manipulate search. I can just ask it and we'll go out there and find it. So it's not making those problems. It's just really easy to expose them now. The empty Copilot, poor content, outdated documents, no structure. Yeah, it's in SharePoint somewhere. What are we actually using it for? I don't know. What version is it? Don't know. Really, this comes down to, I may rename this from the empty Copilot to the poor Copilot, because this is what's going to give you those poor responses, poor vision out of Copilot as well. Because Copilot does have his vision. It does want to try and please you. It does want to give you that information that you're after. But if there is poor content, you've got outdated documents mixed in with your dated documents, and you've just got them all in a single document library, it's not going to help. As an old school SharePoint person, yet again, migrating, we're going to take the S drive and we're going to put it into one SharePoint document library. That I would say that gives me a heart attack, but I probably can't play those jokes now. But that's not how Copilot's going to, because it's going to see everything. It's going to go through everything. And when I mean everything, there are limits. Originally, Copilot could only use 20 documents at once. Now, I think that's up to 1,000 now, but still most people have anywhere from 10 to 150,000 documents in a document library. So which 10, which 20, which 50 it picks, it's a bit of a black box. We do know some things like dates, how relevant it is to the prompt, how relevant it is to the query, how many degrees of separation, did you write it, did someone else write it? That does come into effect, especially since now Microsoft has this layer in Copilot called Work IQ, which you can see who I am, who you are, who my colleagues is, who my boss is. So it's getting that, well, your colleagues developed this document, your boss signed off on it, maybe you mean this, but it picks up version 13 instead of version 15. Yet again, going back to that data hygiene. So therefore, we see the generic outputs. Did you mean this? Here's some information. Equivalent to write me a proposal. Yep, it will write you a proposal, but it's going to be so generic, you're not going to be able to utilize it at all. Write me a proposal using this content from this presentation, using these figures from finance, give me my milestones, give me my potential engineers for that job. That's what you're trying to get out of Copilot all at once. The dangerous Copilot, over permission data, no governance, exposes too much. This is probably, everyone's got access to the same folder in SharePoint. Everyone's got access to the same document library in SharePoint. It's pulling in way too much information. So it's going to have information about the project you're on, but also the contracts and the policies and the leave requests and everything under the sun within the organization. So if it makes a connection between that data, it will just pull it in. And we see this come through, certainly through some court cases. So this is not to be treated lightly, where it is pulling in information it shouldn't be pulling in from. I think KPMG comes to mind with this one. They got in trouble because it was pulling in information it shouldn't have access to. And that was not good. Likewise with the confused Copilot pilot. We've got no use cases. We just flicked on the speech. Copilot's not really a thing you can configure. I mean, yes, you can create agents. Yes, you can create some personality changes, but it's really on or off. If it's on the license, it's on. You create the agents, that's a little bit different, so put that aside. But if we don't have any business value or business cases, we have no clear value from that. So how are we going to use it with Outlook? How are we going to use it with Word? How are we going to use it with our data? You may want to go application specific, you may want to go data specific, you may want to go role specific or department specific. Have those use cases where you can actually clearly define how, where, and why we should use Copilot. And the other point, there is no business alignment. We're just using Copilot because everyone's using it. And that happens in business. I get it. I'm in business myself, so hey, we've got to do what everyone else does. That's fine, but why are you doing it? How are you utilizing it? How is it giving you the advantage over your competitors? Is it giving you the advantage over the competitors? Is it costing you money? Is it saving you money? If it's not, what about time? Or is it reducing some complexity as well? The whole business alignment also comes to mind where, well, what are we going to be doing in 5 years' time? 10 years' time, 15 years' time, all those files that we've had for 15 years, they're going to be 30 years old then. Maybe it's time to delete them out. The value really comes from how are you actually going to incorporate this into your business, into your processes, into your policies, into your guidelines, into your guardrails. How are you actually going to draw value from AI? And that is a hard question. I mean, don't get me wrong, how we've got this business, it's been going 30, 40 years. We've got our policies down pat. We know what they're doing. And we're going to go in there and we're going to dip them all upside down and rip them apart and see what can be used with AI. It can be a daunting task. It can even be an off-putting task. But without doing at least some of that, you're not going to see where you can actually draw that value from. So what is the Copilot operating model? Ownership. Ownership. Developers. Who is responsible for AI outcomes? not just IT. This is not, I said, an IT problem. IT is there to facilitate information technology. It's not there to do everything in IT that's possible. So just because they can doesn't mean they should. So can they create agents? Can they use Copilot? Can they assist you with it? Yes. But is HR better to be able to define what does HR want from it? Yes. It's a very old thing, this, but it is something that really does play out with Copilot because IT can't be driving this. It may be able to facilitate it, but different areas of the business will be driving it for their own different purposes and their own different goals. But the common thing is ownership. Who's going to own these agents? Who's going to own this data? Who's going to own making sure the permissions are correct? Yet again, nothing really with AI except the agents and all that sort of stuff, but it's that level just below the surface. Who's responsible? The big R word. No one wants to be responsible for anything in these sort of things, but that's the way to overcome it. The use case lifecycle, another great tool in the tool bag with AI. How ideas are identified, validated, and scaled. We want to see what ideas and how we can use them. How do we draw them? Just because I think it's stupid doesn't mean it doesn't add to the value of the process, shortening the time, getting a better advantage, getting a document out quicker, or reviewed quicker, or across it quicker, and then validation. Now, this is where people sort of go, how can I use AI to validate things? And I'll use a code example because I'm also an old dev, but if I write a bunch of code, back in the day, you would have to have another coder to go in there and make sure, do peer review, essentially. Well, now I can have an AI do that. Is it going to be 100%? No, but was that developer? No. Maybe it's an intermittent step. Validate or use AI to validate AI. The devil's advocate, so to speak. And then scaling. How are we going to use this at scale? Are we looking at just one team, one person, one department, one section, one enterprise, two enterprises? Are we looking at to roll it out to our customers? How do we actually scale that? And a big part of that is developing it correctly, having the correct permissions, having it correctly set up in 365 as well. And then governance. What controls in place to manage risk? That manage risk, there's always going to be risk, but how do we actually manage it? Do we have a risk framework? What do we do? Even set up, I forget what, I was just on this by my mind, but what do we do if this information is leaked? What do we do if this information is accessible? What do we do if it's not? Contingency plans. That's what I was after. Is the risk too great? I mean, I had a client last week pull out from a Copilot Pilot because they figured the risk was too great. Their SharePoint is just way too messy. People have access to things that they shouldn't. There's no data lifecycle. They've got 20-year-old files in there. They've got users in over 300 groups. So that's a fun one. So they've said, no, we're going to kill the pilot before it even takes off. We're too risk adverse for that. We need to do a whole bunch of IT cleanup before we even get to a position where we can look at that Copilot. And abandoning a Copilot Pilot is fine. I hate saying that, the Copilot Pilot is fine. It gives you an assessment of where you're at right now. And if that risk is too great, fine, no problem. Put in a plan, put in a journey, start to see where those risks are. Because those risks just aren't for Copilot. If your risk is everyone's got access to the information they shouldn't, who cares about Copilot? That's a bigger problem for Daniel. Why have they got this information? Why have they got access to it? Should we draw that back? How does that affect our ISO standards? How does that affect our auditing? These are questions that really come back, not forward. Enablement, how are users adopting and embedding AI into the work? Have those conversations, have those feedback forms, have those lunch meetings, see how they're using it, where they're using it, why they're using it is the important one. Why are they using AI now? I'm using AI to review all these emails that are coming in. Okay, cool. What emails are coming in? Why are you getting so many that you need to use AI to go through them? Oh, I'm on the help desk emails. Okay, well, maybe we should put some triage in there. Because if it's happening to you, is it happening to others as well? Measurement. How success is defined and tracked. So this probably is up and down, but you want to define what your success criteria looks up front. Will it change? I guarantee it's going to change by 6 months down in the pilot. Your success criteria has changed because now you've got a better understanding. What are we actually trying to achieve? How are we tracking it? Is it good? Is it bad? How are we meeting our success criteria? Or if we're not? And without this, Copilot will always remain experimental. Because when do I use it? How do I use it? Why am I using it? Maybe I could use it for this. Maybe I could use it for that. I don't know. Is it secure? Don't know. We've got to be able to check and measure all of these things combined to be able to operate with confidence. So what happens without all this? Random usage, no consistency, no accountability, no measurable outcomes. Activity increases, but the value does not. Sure, people are using Copilot, but they're using it to ground. They're not getting that value. They're just using it to summarize emails. Okay, that's fine. That's a great use case, but summarize what emails? How many times? How many emails? Can we reduce the amount of emails? Sorry, I'm doing all this stuff because why are you using AI in this way? And this can highlight other problems within the organization too. Like I said, if I'm using AI to assess all these emails that are coming in, the question is, why are all these emails coming in? AI, you may need to come in. AI's perfect use case, help desk, triage, done, no problem. But it may also point to a system that's gone off track or a system or a process that's now not up to scale. The value stack, information architecture, big one. Structure your SharePoints right. Permission and security, apply the permissions and security correctly. Content quality. I mean, people do downplay this, but that having the whole V1, V2, V3 is confusing to Copilot. They've got safeguards in there and stuff like, and all that sort of stuff. Sure, no problem. But if you use, and it's a bit hard to do this retrospectively, but if you use SharePoint version control, that's way better than V1, V2, V3, V4. Because eventually Copilot can go into version history and go and check it and know which version is the latest. The use case design, big one. As I've sort of harped on a little bit. Find those use cases, track those use cases, why are they using them in those particular scenarios. Adoption and behavior. It's incredibly important. I mean, I know Kirsty, sorry. She's an adoption person. And yeah, having that adoption and that behavior, that change in behavior, that adoption uptake is incredibly important because sure, you're going to have resistance through the organization. AI is taking everyone's jobs. No, it's not. People who know how to use AI are taking everybody's jobs. You know, you're going to have that. And it is a change in behavior. It is a change in mindset. You know, so all of a sudden we're now, what's a good example? The whole policy bot. We don't have to go through and see, we're not allowed to take a client to lunch. I don't have to manually read the policies or ask someone. I just ask the bot. Ask the bot, ask the bot, ask the bot. And that's a change in behavior. Now, adoption obviously comes with that. Key training, key information. And that key information are things like you can use it in these use cases. This is our plan for rolling it out throughout the organization. This is the data it has access to. It all loops onto itself. And then that business measurement. Being able to measure how many people are using it, where they're using it, why they're using it, what they're using it for, what they're using it not for as well. That's a great gap area that you know, well, we've got all this data that you're not using. Well, why have you got the data? Oh, it's all sales data from 10 years ago. Cool. Let's feed it into an archive sales bot, see what insights we can pull out of there. What each layer really means. Should probably bring this slide up before. Structure, naming, life cycle. We've got the structure. We're not using a single SharePoint document library. We've got our sites, we've got our teams, we've got our document libraries, we've got our lists all set up properly. Naming is important. I will put it in there just because a lot of people go, oh, we want naming conventions. Cool, we'll use metadata. Naming is important because how else will it start to do that initial first pass across those files? And the lifecycle management of that data as well. I'll be using the relevant information. Permissions, there's always going to be permissions. I'm always just going to hammer permissions because that is the main problem with Copilot. Permissions, done. Quality content, clean, current, trusted. Yet again, I've rehashed that a lot in this presentation because that is what it comes down to, making sure that your end users are actually using the right data. Use case design, real work, not demos. So policy bot's fine, but it's a 15-minute thing I can knock up pretty quick. It's not a real world one. The contract one is a bit more involved because, okay, let's go over your contracts. Let's define those rules around what does risk mean? What does the criteria around those contracts mean? You know, you can have some more in-depth discussions around that. And the adoption and behavior, the habits, no training sessions. Don't chuck out Copilot to say, yeah, cool, go use Copilot, because no one will use it. They'll ask it how it is. How are you feeling today, Mr. Computer? I'm fine, thank you. But that's the level of interaction and engagement you're going to get if you just chuck it out there to use. I know of an organization who did that with the 300,000 licenses. That's 100K US they threw out, and they had no training, no investigation, no remediation. They just threw it out. And all of a sudden, yeah, we could find some really cool stuff in SharePoint through Copilot. And yeah, the business measurement, time, revenue, risk. You know, if we are, let's say I'm a BDM, I'm doing 10, 15 calls a day to my clients, seeing what they need. If I can save 3 minutes per call because I can pull that information up quickly in Copilot, maybe link it to my sales system, my ERP, my inventory. If I can save 3 minutes per call, I can get another call a day. I may be able to make $5,000 today, $2,000 tomorrow, $1,000. Well, all of a sudden now I'm starting to make money out of Copilot that I wouldn't have been able to do yesterday. So increasing revenue. And the risk, we want to see that risk come down over time. What's the risk of using AI or not using AI? And this risk here is more so for the end user. What's my risk of not using it? Well, you risk getting automated. Probably a bad thing to say, but if you can do your job and there's no way you can enhance it through AI, then are you really being competitive? It's the harsh reality of a new tool set in the business place that you refuse to use. You're going to lose your job eventually to someone who will actually use that tool. Truth about Copilot, it's not a magic tool. Write me a proposal. It's an amplifier. This is what my core message has been for a long time now. It does amplify. It does multiply. You know, for me, myself, I'm a one-man band, me and my wife, but I can compete, let's say, on the social media side because I'm using AI to generate my content, you know, my LinkedIn posts, not so much the images because they don't look right. So that is getting better. And I can compete with a whole marketing team. Is my content as great as there is? No. But is it 80%? Is it good enough for me? Yes. It also amplifies those permissions really well. Now, Copilot will never actually change permissions. It doesn't alter permissions. It doesn't bypass permissions. Whatever permissions you've got, it respects. But it does amplify if you've got the wrong permissions. And it's the behavior amplifier as well. Are you saving information in the right spot? Can actually Copilot actually get to it? No, because you've saved it in some folder on the network drive, which Copilot can't touch, or on your desktop that Copilot can't touch. So the environment is broken. AI scales the problem. And this really comes down to more so, and I'll use the example of SharePoint. Everything dumped into one document library is not scalable. It becomes unmanageable. Too many people, too many permissions, too many objects. Copilot won't be able to do it at scale. You know, if you've got sort of 50, 60, 100,000 employees and you're using SharePoint that way, it's just going to be a nightmare that won't allow you to scale in the large term or the long term. Key insight, most organizations start from the top. I want this because I want it. Okay, cool. It's always good. I mean, it's always fun. But we've got to look at the bottom impact. You know, where are we actually having that impact, drawing that value, reducing those risks? You know, most organizations start with AI. Successful organizations start with their environment. Are we looking at our permissions, our data lifecycle, our content labeling, our data loss prevention, our security around that? You know, can we email confidential documents out? Can we print confidential documents? Is another one. I mean, that's probably not a Copilot one, but that's where it starts. It starts with your environment. How is SharePoint structured? How is people using OneDrive? What about the teams? That's where it really starts. These conversations need to start now. Yes, they can happen in the boardroom. We go, we want AI, we want Copilot, no problem. But then the very next one is, okay, how are we actually going to use it? And that's where it starts at the bottom up. Vanity metrics, prompt per day. How many prompts are we using per day? What's our daily users? What's our chat volume? Meaningless without impact. So if I can see everyone is pumping through 1,000 prompts a day and that project still is 4 weeks overdue, the hell are you guys doing? Now, there may be a valid reason why it's overdue. The customer's gone on holiday. All right, fine, no problem. But how are you using this to draw value for that project? How are you using it to essentially leapfrog, catch up? You know, we've got to be able to have impact and draw value, whether that's reduce time, reduce risk, or catching up, providing information quicker to the client, or quicker to management, quicker reports. Where's that impact happening? Daily usage is, yet again, it's how much usage has Copilot got per day? You know, yeah, I use that personally. I use that to see if the trend's sort of picking up. If it is picking up, well, then we can start to see, well, maybe people are starting to use it to get that value out of. But then the next question is, well, where are they getting the value? It has to come back to that impact statement. And the chat volume, how much people are copy and pasting into Copilot, that means. So are they actually putting in all the documents, or are they just putting in the selected information they needed? Real metrics, time saved. Like I said, this task used to take me, I'll break this down to a very low hanging fruit one, but catching up on my emails used to take me 45 minutes, now takes 7. That's on that's on a Tuesday morning. Monday morning, it may take 20 minutes. I've still saved 20 minutes per day. Monday morning, because I've got emails over the weekend. I've got to filter out that spam, those marketing, those ones. Decision speed. This is a great one for things like finance, Power BI, Excel. I've got that information now in front of me. All the information I need, I can make the decisions quicker. In theory. Quality output, write me a proposal. Write me a proposal with X, Y, Z. Is it a more quality or more content quality starting point than previous? And as I said, risk reduction should, in theory, go down over time. We were at risk matrix high. Was it the consequences and likelihood? We were now at a high or a major. Now we're coming down to a low or a minor. We want to be able to see that risk come down as people get more confident, as the environments mature, as those sensitivity labels come through, as that DLP comes through, as that life cycle comes through. What's the time? All right. Is it, sorry?
1:30.
1:30. Okay, we're going to rip through these ones pretty quick. Yep. So what executives actually care about? So this is through my experience. How much time are we saving? Are our decisions faster? Is the output better? And are we reducing risk? Not how many prompts we used. Oh, we used 73 prompts today. Cool. Must mean people are working harder. That always reminds me of how many lines a developer writes as a KPI. The basic introduction application you learn when you're studying at developer is to just write hello world on the screen. I can make that take 1,000 lines of code. Technically, it's 1 line of code, but if I'm getting billed or KPI'd against how many lines of code I'm writing, I'm going to put in a lot of lines of code. Likewise with how many prompts being used. It's not something you need to track or measure, because what determines a quality prompt is the quality output. So I only may need 3 quality prompts to someone's 57. It means nothing. It's not a value metric. Before or after at scale. So we can save 30 minutes, we can reduce it down. Well, with a task that takes 30 minutes, we can save 25 minutes, take it down to 5 minutes. Scale across 100 users. And that's a big impact. 25 minutes times 100 equals woohoo, we go home early Friday. Unlikely, but it's definitely having that impact. And that could just be from email. Just summarize my inbox. Now, yet again, low-hanging fruit. Let's look at those use cases, that data, that risk, the measurable impact. Where can we actually get that from? But it's not so much of a hard twist to save 30 minutes a day. Where does value come from? Not from AI features, not from prompts, not from experimentation. You may get a little bit here and there, that we're talking seconds to minutes, under 10 minutes. But we want to look at repeatable use cases. What's something you do every week, every day, every hour, every fortnight, every month? Now, are you going to save a process that takes a whole day? Let's just say like monthly reporting. Are you going to save monthly reporting from a whole day of 8 hours down to 10 minutes? Probably not. Probably not. But maybe you might shave off an hour. Because now we can say, okay, well, we now look at the process. We understand where AI can help us reduce some of those decision points or pain points, and we can then identify, and this is where automation comes into it. We can maybe automate some of that stuff as well. And that's a whole other topic, but just because AI can do it doesn't mean we shouldn't automate it. Always look at automating above AI. The embedded workflows. So yet again, as I just said, automation is probably a little bit of a winner in this scenario. AI, while it can help, it's the automation that's really going to save you that time. Where you're automating things, how can AI help with that automation? And scale behaviors. How can we actually change this at scale? Going back to the previous slide, well, for 100 users now, we've got an agent, we've got Policy Bot that can help 100 users. They save time, they save 7 minutes per interaction. Happy days. There's 700 minutes saved. Value's in the operational, not the experimental. So you'll never get the value out of experimenting with Copilot. You'll have some fun times, you'll get some ideas, you'll get some information. Fine, that's true. But you're not actually going to get the massive value, massive impact, massive time saving, massive revenue savings living in experimental. You'll have to move to operational. Once you do that, well, then the benefits are really limited by your imagination, but documented, structured, use cases, come up with those. That's where you're going to get the value from. What they miss at each stage, lots of organizations miss at each stage. Jump straight into tools, skip business problems. Big one. Oh yeah, cool. We've got Copilot. How can I use Copilot? Hello, Mr. Copilot. But people looking at those business problems, those use cases. Remediation seen as optional. It's too hard. We've got too many files in SharePoint to go over. Bad luck. Start culling them down. Come up with the criteria. Do you need them? If it's over 7 years old, you could probably archive it pretty safely. Now, that's always has exceptions. It was a client project. We helped them build a bridge. We're on the hook for 25 years. Okay, fine, no problem. But payroll documents or draft proposals or someone's lunch menu. See you later. Clean all that out. Like I said, we don't need to start at 100% before we actually start with Copilot. We can use this as a journey. And prime example of those sensitivity labels. HR, finance, board, payroll, confidential, straight up, done, bulk. If there's anything that's not confidential in there, that's by exception. You've got a HR folder and everything's confidential, you can sleep easy at night, versus you've got a HR folder and everything's marked public. The controlled pilot, too broad, no clear success criteria. It's just, yep, we're going to trial Copilot, we're going to see how people use it. Give them ideas how to use it, use cases on how to use it, where they can use it, why they can use it, why they shouldn't use it. We've got confidential data that we don't want. There's legislation reasons that PII or personal identifiable information can't go through AIs. We've made a business decision. We don't want that to go through an AI. Fine. No problem. What about my email? Can I use that? A lot of people don't know because that might have your members or customers' names. Have that documented. Control. Operationalize. I don't even know if that's a word. Like findability. Back in the days of SharePoint, Chris, it's the findability. Treat it as training, not behavior change. Yes, we can do training. This is a SharePoint, this is Copilot, this is a red one. This works great. This is where to use it. This is how to use it. But you're also going to need to take the next level and say, okay, how are we going to change our behaviors to incorporate Copilot, incorporate AI to the process, the fabric of who we are, essentially. When they scale, it's rolled out way too early without proof of value. Now, if it does actually provide real value, you'll get that really quickly. People will start to say, oh, well, if I start to use PolicyBot, I'm saving all this time. Great, no problem. But if people are going, oh, well, I'm not saving any extra time, it's too hard, it's something new that I've got to do, it's something additional I've got to do, it ain't going to happen. And the result of all of these is AI gets deployed, but it never really delivers impact. That's the common theme, you know. Turn AI on, turn Copilot on, and yeah, cool, we've got it, but how are we actually getting that value, that return? Discovery, I'll rip through these pretty quick. Identify high value use cases. I've mentioned this a lot throughout the session already. HR, finance, IT, HR, finance, board, payroll, high value use cases, put them through there, make them risk adverse, or they are risk adverse. So let's not use those, but understand the current data plus the risks and align to real business problems. Let's not invent problems to use Copilot for AI. We've got enough problems already. Remediation, this is probably going to be the biggest part that everyone doesn't want to do. Fix permissions and oversharing, clean the structure, establish governance guardrails. Big thing that I've already covered a lot in this presentation already. That permissions, structured content, structuring SharePoint correctly, defining when to use OneDrive, Teams, or SharePoint is a big one as well. And then having that governance and guardrails in place as well, data lifecycle, et cetera. The controlled pilot, don't throw it onto everybody. Have a selected set of users, have a representative, maybe a couple of people from finance, a couple of people from the help desk, a couple of people from the board, or maybe not the board, but from the executive team. And then define those success metrics up front and validate the real outcomes, you know, not just usage. So have those follow-up conversations. Where are you seeing that value come from? Oh, I see it because every morning I have to do my report. I can ask it to format it for me. All right, cool. It's a silly thing, but that's where people see value from. Or I use it to create chart images. It takes me way quicker in Copilot than it does PowerPoint. Real minor one, but yet again, they're getting that value out of it. And then the complex ones like, you know, reviewing contracts and review dates and things like that. Operationalize, embed in daily workflows, standardize repeatable patterns, and introduce ownership and accountability. Ownership, accountability, big one. Standardize those repeatable patterns or those repeatable tasks, and we're well embedded. Scale, expand based on proof of value. If it works for me and I'm saving 15 minutes a day on my emails, it's probably going to work for a lot of people. Are they going to save 15 minutes? No, but they might say 5. All right, fine. Put that in the jar. We'll keep that in the jar. And we want to measure and optimize. You know, how are we actually using it? How are we getting those time savings? I mean, these will change as AI does mature and progresses. You know, these scales or these scale points are probably going to be different in 5 years' time. So what does good look like? Clear, prioritized use cases tied to business value. Sounds easy enough, but it's actually hard in practice. Remediation, yet again, clean up everything. Is it at a point where you have to have everything 100%? No, that's not my point here. My point is that you've got that plan in place for that remediation. Likewise with the pilot, we want to have those measurable improvements in time, quality, and speed. That's what we're looking for with the pilot. Operationalize, basically it becomes embedded in our daily workflows. How are we actually using it? Now, that's not all workflows, but at least some. We want to see it develop in some. And scale, you know, how can we use it and expand it based on the proven outcomes and not just hype. A lot of hype around AI. Blueprint, fix the foundation, prove the value, operationalize, scale. Probably roll this slide in the previous one. From theory to reality, most organizations, they run pilots, they experiment broadly, and they hope for value. You hope we're going to see some value out of this. Well, let's not set yourself up for success. You may have some success, but you probably won't. High-performing organizations, they fix the foundations first. They spend a couple, I would say weeks, but in reality, it's months. Clean up SharePoint, start the tagging, start that data cleansing, start that data hygiene, the DLP, everything like that. And we prove the value in small pockets. One agent for one team. Does it provide value? Yes, it does. No, it doesn't. Well, then kill it. The difference is technology is discipline. Yet again, this is not technology problems except for the permissions. Everything else is discipline, it's governance, it's control, it's the business side of things. Use case pattern 1 or case pattern 1. Pilot went nowhere, no prep, no structure, no outcomes. You know, the result of that. Accidental success, one team, one high value use case, immediate impact result, organic adoption. It's pulled from the business. Well, it's pulling from the business, sorry. I don't even know why I got that one there. But it's the accidental success. We've got one use case where we can use it and it's had success. Excellent. Then we've got the scaled success. Governance first, structured rollout, measured outcomes. And this is the full blown. Let's go through it. Let's look at those use cases. How are we going to monitor it? How are we going to measure it? What's the governance? Who's accountable? Who's going to take responsibility? Who owns what? And then we can see the sustained value and obviously the executive support, because now they're going to say, okay, well, now it's worthwhile. Stage 2 of the pilot, which is not really now the pilot, spending that money on those licenses. Stage 3 becomes more valuable. Stage 4 becomes more valuable as you sort of go. We can see that sustained value, get the support from the execs to spend that money. From pilot to business impact, we have the pilot. Let me clean the slide up. Ad hoc usage, no clear outcomes. We want to move into defined usage, embedded in workflows and the measure of the results. For time savings at scale, faster decisions, improve quality, reduce risk. A lot of this I've gone over before, but just to reiterate, that's the sort of methodology, the model, the framework we want to look at as we sort of look at moving through the pilot right through to having that business impact. So what most organizations get wrong, they scale too early, skip remediation. Yet again, we've probably gone over this previous slides. They roll it out to everyone. Instead, fix the foundation, prove value in pockets, and scale with control. Copilot doesn't fix your workplace, it reveals it and scales it. So everyone can find all your secrets now really easily. Hard truth, your SharePoint is worse than you think. It really is. As someone who's been dealing with SharePoint for 25 years, oh yeah, your permissions are likely broken. That's because people versus groups versus sharing. How is all that managed? How is that maintained? How you got oversight on that? And your content is probably not AI ready. And this is how is it structured? Where's it structured? Et cetera, et cetera. Training won't fix this. It's really a governance problem. Define who should have access to what type of content. So what do you actually do? Stop trying to scale too early. Pick the 2 to 3 high value use cases. Prove the value in those controlled environments. And embed those high value use cases into the daily workflows. Then look at other areas where we can look at it. So look, we've got policy bot. It's working really, really well. Cool. Is there another bot that we can get the same, if not more value out of? Now that we understand that process a bit better, what content does it need? Who should have access to it? Baby steps, baby steps, baby steps. Let's not roll out 15 different bots. I keep saying bots, I should say agents. But this is where then AI starts to deliver the real business impact, because we've gone from value add to value add to value add to value add to value add. We're not hope. Simple. We've done that before. Yeah. Big numbers when you start to think about it. Copilot readiness checklist, really basic one. Clean structured content, permissions are under control, find your use cases, measure the outcomes, and you have governance in place. If you don't have these, don't scale yet. Don't start rolling everything out. And the final thought is the organizations that win with AI are not the ones who deploy it first. I know that sounds counterintuitive, especially what us three kind of do. Yeah, we want AI, roll it out. Everyone can have it. AI for you, AI for you. Oprah, yeah, you can have an AI, you can have an AI. But you really need to take a step back and go, okay, look, where are we now? What's our position now? What's our situation now? What SharePoint sites do we have? What permissions? What's our workforce like? Do we have the governance in place? Do we have the controls in place? If not, maybe we should start that journey first. And then this is how you move from Copilot pilots to real business impact. So beyond the Copilot pilot is when now it becomes standard. I haven't seen it yet, but in resumes, I'm now Copilot friendly, or I know how to use AI or Copilot, and that will come. Because if you're not teaching your staff how to use AI now, at their next job, they will. Because that is the future. No one's going to be doing things manually anymore, especially now if you look at things like Copilot Cowork. Anyone play with Copilot? Yeah, Cowork. It's impressive. It's still V1. But for those of you unaware of Copilot Cowork, what was the example? We've got a new product we're launching, V2 of the product. I need a slide deck. I need the financials for it. I need you to book a meeting with the team, and I need you to send an email. And it did all of that. Happy days. So it's becoming this more Copilot co-worker, being able to actually do tasks that you thought that Copilot could do, as Andrew said, could do originally. So we actually say it is actually doing now rather than just saying. So if you think back when AIs first come out, hello, how are you? It would talk to you. It would tell you things. Yep, cool, no problem. But try and get it to send an email. Wouldn't do it. Now I can send emails. Now I can schedule meetings. Now I can have it in Microsoft Teams. Now it can do these things now. And that's where we're seeing a lot of that value come through. And that's it. Very rushed one, but it's still very rough. I've still got to refine it for the end of the month, but hope people got some insights from that with all my experience with Copilot. I mean, I've been doing Copilot deployments now for 2.5, 3 years. So, yeah, thank you very much, everyone. Any questions? Sure. If you do, hit me up. I'm on LinkedIn. You'll see me more and more. Yeah. Thank you very much, everyone. Back over to Andrew.
You might need to cut that down a bit for the conference.
Yeah, it's way too long. I noticed I've got some duplicate slides in there.
Yeah.
Like the whole, say, 5 minutes to 25 minutes. I got that in there at least twice. Permissions I've got a dozen times in there because, and the reason why permissions I've got is one of my first questions is, can Copilot get into stuff I don't have access to? No, I can't. Stop thinking that. There's a couple of things on that. One, it will never change permissions. Two, it can now go into shared mailboxes. So a lot of people have like support at or HR at. If you've got access to it, Copilot can now get access to it. And Copilot respects your permissions, won't change them, and can never open up password protected files. So it doesn't know the password, it won't do it. So don't believe the hype online saying, oh, Copilot can get into password protected Excel files. No, I can't. So yeah, cool. Over to Andrew.
Well, thanks, Daniel. Pleasure having you as always. I feel so bad having not been as prepared for tomorrow's presentation now.
Yes.
But yeah, thanks all for coming to online, and hope to see you all next month. We'll get the event details out to you as soon as we can. But if you have the opportunity to come to Melbourne later in the month to the Digital Workplace Conference, we'll see you there. Well, these two guys have secured the tickets.
Yep.
I've got someone in mind as a runner up, so it's fine. So yeah, thanks for coming, and I guess stay tuned for more on all the things, particularly the security bootcamp.
Yeah.
Yes.
And local host event. And we
Well,
host it.
yes. Yeah, we'll have a chat about that
Yeah.
now.
All right.
Cool. Thank you, everyone.